Okay, so far we have had 4 videos talking about basic knowledge about web development. The first video is about HTML and the second video is about CSS. They are responsible for the content and the style of the website. And the third video is about JavaScript, which is responsible for interaction, the behavior of your website. And in this fourth video, we talk about how to use MySQL, that is about storing the data that is related to your website. And finally, we're going to combine all of them together by building a backend of the website. So in this video, we're going to use Node.js to build a the backend of our website, the server application. So right now we have a Ubuntu installation, and we need to install Node.js first. Let's see how to install Node.js on Ubuntu 2004. Install Node.js in Ubuntu 2004. Okay. So DigitalOcean always provide very good tutorials about how to do these type of things. So let's do a update again. And I think there are not a lot of things to update here. And it seems there's something that it is probably locked, and that would probably didn't properly finish the previous update. Let's try to install Node.js directly and see. I think the thing is I need to use sudo apt update. Okay, then we can install Node.js. Sudo apt install Node.js. We install it. Takes some time to download it, but it's not a very large software. Okay, we now have Node.js. Okay, it's completed installation. So let's run Node.js-v to check what's the version. It's 10.19.0. Then we also need to install npm, which stands for Node.js Package Manager, which is similar to pip for Python. So we can run sudo apt install npm. Then it seems there are a lot of dependencies, and npm is actually much larger than Node.js itself. But let's take some time to download it and install it. So while it's installing, we can try to say something about how we're going to develop our server. So we're going to use a framework called Express. So we can check express.js. I think there's expressjs.com. So this is a framework for developing backend code. And see, this is the way that we're going to install it. And we can find some documentation. Let's find getting started. This getting started information about how to use Node.js. Hello world, let's find the hello world example. And you can see there are some code snippet that we can probably just directly use it. And at the same time, we're also going to use another tool, which is called Postman. The Postman can help us check APIs that we have developed, we have designed for our website. I already have the Postman installed here, and actually the Postman should work in your host system. Currently, I'm using Windows Windows subsystem for Linux. So and in this terminal, this is actually a virtual machine that running the Linux system, but the Postman should actually work in your host Windows system. So we have here, then later on we can use it to check some APIs. Okay, let me close everything I have before. So these are the two things that we're going to use to test or host the program. So the first thing we need to do after installing npm and Express is that we first need to create a default static server, like what we have been using. We have been using Python to serve as a static server, which simply serves the file system. We first need to define a static server. So let's search how to use Express to define a static server. Express.js static server. You can see there are some tutorials it's in the getting started tutorial. So we can see how to serve static files in Express. Okay, it really takes some time to install. I don't think it's an internet problem. I think it's just taking this long time to install everything. It's just probably unpacking this source code. At the same time, while it's installing, we can create another server, another folder here. Let's call it. I haven't been commit recently, so let me commit my code first. New terminal, git status. Let me commit, say, add log in JavaScript. Let me push it. Okay, I think it's pushed. I've never used the new version of VS Code to push it, but it seems it works really good. I don't need to type my password in the terminal. Now let's create another server called another folder called server. Now we're going to put all the host code, all the server code into this server folder. Yeah, it's kind of getting much faster now. %. Just need to wait for it to finish so that we can start to work on it. Okay, I think it's completing. finally completed. Let's go to the server folder that we have created. Then we can run npm init to declare saying, okay, this is a Node.js project. Let's run npm init. And this name we can call, we need to provide some information here. Let's call this name, the package name is OPS server. Version, this name is 0.0.1. Okay, description, we're going to leave it blank. Entry point, index.js, okay, we don't even have index.js right now. Test command, we are not going to include test. Git repository, that is github.com/as as OPS. Keywords, we're going to leave it blank, other Yifan. License, let's use MIT license. Is this okay? Yes. And so you can see there's a file that is created called package.json. This package.json has the content of this type of information. Okay, so this is the first time you get encounter with this JSON file. And actually this JSON file JSON is a particular format that works really well with JavaScript. And the format is actually very simple to understand. If you have a curly bracket, then this is object, and in this object you have these keys. This is something called name, and the value is another string. Okay, the key is a string, and the value is a string. Key is a string, the value is a string. So the key, now you have script, now we have another object. In this object we have test, and also if we want, we can have say a list or array. Then you can use this to sort to this is an array. In this array you can have numbers 1 2 3 4. This is numbers. So that's pretty much all the thing about the JSON's definition. You can see object has a key and values, and this value can be another object, or it can be array, or it can be just a number or a string. Okay, it's quite straightforward. But here we have this package.json. This package.json defines the basic information about the current package that we're running. And now we are going to install Express. And with Node.js, it's actually very simple to install Node.js. And we can see actually here that you can simply use this command called, where is it? npm install express dash save. So we're installing Express.js, and we're also going to save this information in the in this file, in the package.json file. Let's execute it. You can see it's trying to fetch a lot of information. Hopefully it can install successfully. Okay, added 50 packages because Express depends on other packages. So when I install Express, it actually automatically install other packages for me. So you can see Node.js or npm actually create this folder called node modules for me. And this node modules is actually or dependencies that currently installed here. And you can see if I'm not sure this git ignore already ignored it. Let's run git status to check it. Okay, this server is here. And let's run git add all to see what's going on. Git status. Okay, we only have this package.json and package.log.json. Okay, so what is package.log.json? Package.log.json is basically it requires some information about saying, okay, when this time I'm downloading this this source file, what is the we have a stamp that's saying, okay, this string represents the current version of or package. And if or source code, if sometimes say if I download another source code from for another time, there may be some character changes, some changes in that particular version. So if I have another version, then I may get another result. So if I have a bug in the current version, I may not repeat that bug in another version. So to prevent this happen, it uses its integrity string. So it uses a string to represent the current version of this particular library. So next time, if I'm on another machine, I can run npm install. Running npm install will automatically install these all my dependencies here. Well, actually, even say, assuming next time you clone this Git repository, you will not have these Git node modules, right? So I can remove it permanently, just delete it. Now I can run npm install. Then npm will automatically install the dependency for me, because it will check, say, I need no Express.js. Yeah, I need to go to server and run npm install, because in this package.json it says dependency were depending on Express 4.1.17.1, so it will also automatically download Express. Then it will check the string with this string, say if it's a match or not. If it's not match, there is a problem, then npm has to warn the user. Okay, so this is why we need this package log.json, and it's some corner knowledges. Okay, so first we're going to create a file, JavaScript file that's called index.js. Now in this index.js, we're going to start to write this source code, host code. So pretty much we're going to recreate what's going on here. Okay, this run const express equals require express. So require is similar to Python's import for Node.js. So it will actually import this particular module. And where it can find the module, it can find the module in Node modules folder. And let's run const app equals express. So we're going to use express to create an application. Then we're going to use a port, const port. Let's name it as we're using 8000. Let's keep using 8000. Then let's use apt.get. I'll talk about this apt.get later. And on this particular path, we're going to perform this action, request and response. Okay, so for every request, we'll have two arguments. One is request, one is response. The request is the information that the browser sent to us, and the response is going to be the data that we send back to the send back to the host program. Sorry, send back to the browser. Then we can run rest.send hello world. Okay, that's hello world. You can use a semicolon. It's not strictly required. I think it's a good habit, but different coding style have different styles. So we can run app.listen. So we need to have this app application keep listening to the port, so that it will take the corresponding action. So this port is where we are using 8000, then it's console. It also has a console.log, which is similar to print in Python. This is hello. Just simply use this code. Okay. So this is another syntax for JavaScript that you have never seen before. This is similar to the f string in Python. So it uses backtick. And saying, okay, this is just a part of the string. Example app listening at HTTP column / localhost column port, right? But this port you can see is highlighted as blue color. This is something that we're going to convert a variable or an expression into part of the string. So it can directly integrate string with a variable. So we have this Hello World program ready. We can run it. Let's run it with node index.js. What's the problem? Apt, not apt. App is not defined. Let's run node index.js. Okay, it asked me for permission. And yes, it's listening at this port. Right now we can run localhost 8000. You can see hello world, right? We can also inspect the network. Let's refresh it. We run, we can see this localhost return status as 200. If you're not sending error code, then we'll return status as 200 with the content of hello world. Okay, so it's a very simple hello world example. So as we said before, we're going to support a static file, right? So how to support a static file? We're going to, let's give it a try. So let's see the description here. For example, use the following code to serve images, CSV file, and JavaScript file in a directory named public. So our folder is in client. So we're going to write app.use express, not argument, use express.static. I think we need to give a path called // Let's see if it works. Sometimes this, for some security reason, you should not actually go one layer up than to the client. Okay, but I think we are separating this client and server, so this is a reasonable design. So let's come back to localhost 8000. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, it's still getting us. Yeah, the thing is, I changed the code. I need to restart the server. So Node.js index.js. Let's refresh it. So it magically works, right? Remember this CSS file and HTML file, right? It just worked. And then when we request for this localhost, it gives us the index.js, index.html file. It also gets us the resize.css and style.css. Let's also try login.html, and it will give us this login.html file, and it perfectly works. It works perfectly fine. Okay. So next thing, we're going to develop API that can handle user login. Okay, let's define this API. So when we have an API, when we talk about error code about the HTTP request. Error code is the information that is sent from the server to the browser. But the information sent to the browser to the server, we haven't talked a lot about it. So there are many different types of HTTP request. HTTP request types or methods. Yeah, a better word is method. You can see there's very many different methods, and we have get, we have post, we have put, we have delete, and connect, options, trace, patch. I have never used these things. I only use four things: get, post, put, and delete. So from the name, you probably can get the feeling. Get is to get, is to fetch data from the server. It's similar to select in MySQL. Post is to add something to the server. So it's more like insert in MySQL. Then put is basically it says replace current representations, which basically modifies the things that we currently have. So we use when we want to modify something, we use this put method. And delete is to delete. We just want to delete something. Okay, we have these four methods. Those are common methods to use. And also there are some differences between get and post. So that the difference is how the information and how the parameter is transferred. So let's use get first. Let's see at what case we want to use get and at what case we want to use post. Okay, so we want to develop an API. Let's say we want to develop an API. We want to say this path is at /API login. Okay, this is the API. And we can still send hello world for now. So I'm going to introduce Postman for you because it provides richer information, more functionality so that you don't really have to type this information in the browser. So you definitely can do it in a browser. Say, okay, we have Node.js, we have restart the server, then we have localhost, host 8000 API/login. You can see the hello world is returned here, right? So you can definitely use a browser just to manually type this information in, but Postman definitely can provide us more functionalities here. So let's create a new request. A new request. The request name is login. Login. We're not going to put into any collection, or we can put a collection called OPS. Save to OPS. Then we want to use get, and what's the we can have some environment variable, okay? Then let's just do not use it, no environment. Just don't want to make things overly complicated. So we can type, okay, we're going to access localhost 8000, right? Then we're going to use API login. Then send. When we send the information, you can see the header information are actually more information than what you actually can see. You can even see the cookies and test the results. We're not going to talk about cookies for now. And actually right now, it's not very common to use cookies unless they want to provide you some, they want to track you or they want to give you some ads. So it's not very common to use cookies these days. So headers, then okay, the set is 200. Okay, we can see the 200. Also the time and the size is only 216 byte. Okay, so this is the way how we can use a login, how we can use how we can create a get request in Postman. Then the next thing is right now we receive login information. We're going to try, so the login information should actually attach the username and the password, right? So let's see how we can get this information from the get this information from the request. So we can search for express.js get parameters. How to access the get parameter after question mark. Okay, so you actually have different ways. You can use this particular way. So you can sample the ID, then this way you can actually just directly get this ID information. Or you can use this way to represent a variable. Okay, let's see. You can use this. Request query. So we can, so right now let's do this. Console.log request.query. Let's see what's in the query. Okay, then let's come back to Postman. Let's restart the server and run this request again. We're sending request, you can see, okay, this query seems to be empty, right? So we want to add some parameters. You can add these query parameters directly here. Then you can see, okay, we want to add email. The value is, let's say, sdf.@aol.com. The key is, say, password. And the password is 1234566. Okay. Now we can send this request again. You can see, okay, this time we really have this information. We have the email and the password. This is how we can get this information on the server side. Okay, so you can see this how this URL is formatted. So the first is where the server is, right? We're at the localhost. Localhost is our machine, and we're listening to 8000 on this port. If you publish your website, you should really not use 8000 port. You should use the default port, which is 80. So HTTP, you typically use 80 port. If you are using HTTPS, that is another story. And we define our paths at API login. This is the path. And after the question mark, this is the argument. We have email and password, and it's separated by this ampersand sign. So we have acquired this query information. Next thing is how we can connect to MySQL with Node.js. Let's see, we're going to check Node.js MySQL, and we probably need to install other libraries. And you can see there are a lot of things, but basically you can find some basic information here. You can find some basic examples here. Let's say, okay, npm install MySQL. Let's see, this Node.js module available through the npm registry. Before installing, download the Node.js. Okay, installing is done by npm command for information. Sometimes I may also ask you to install latest version from GitHub to check if bug fix is working. In this case, please do this. Okay, so let's ignore this. I think this is the standard way to install it. So let's stop the server first and then try to install npm install --save. We want to save it in a package.json file. Then run MySQL. So this MySQL, we're not installing MySQL right now. We're only adding a library, Node.js library that can help us connect Node.js with MySQL. Okay, so in the package.json, we see, okay, we have a MySQL installed here. So let's come here, let's try to use this example and try to connect to the database, okay? So at beginning, we want to import files. We want to import libraries. So, MySQL equals require MySQL. Then let's put up here, let's put this const MySQL equals to, so see here, it uses var, which I think is kind of an older version style of how to write a JavaScript code. So we're using const here, and which is just a slightly more modern way to write a JavaScript code. Connection, const connection, then my SQL dot create connection. Okay, let's write the connection here. Host is localhost. User is, I think it's Yifan, right? The password equals to Yifan password. Okay. By the way, this is a terrible practice, so you should never do this. I'm just giving you a very short example, so I'm just directly typing my password here. So think about this. If I push it to GitHub, everyone knows my password. Everyone can log into this system, and I have no privacy. I'm actually leaking all the user information in my database, right? So never do this type of thing. You should actually use environment variable to configure what is the username, host. I think it's fine if it's localhost. If it's not localhost, you probably also want to use environment variable to control the host. And also password is definitely something that's going to be recorded in your environment variable. So you should set your environment variable. Then you can read the environment variable from inside Node.js. It's not hard. So Node.js read in environment variables. So it's very, very simple. Process env.node.js .node-env. Then this is I think this is the environment variable. Then you can actually easily read other environment variables, right? There are plenty of examples, but I'm not going to show this example here. but you can easily get this type of information. Okay, I'm just directly writing my password here. Then database, I think is, what's our database? I think our database name is OPS. So JavaScript is not very sensitive to this comma. You can either have this comma or not have this comma. Then we can start to connect. Write connection.connect. So we create this connection even before we start the server. So let's run it to see if this connector giving us any error or not. Let's say we stop it, then we run NodeJS index.js. Okay, it's actually giving us an error. Return not supported auth mode. Client does not support authentication requested by server. Consider upgrading MySQL client. Okay, and I haven't been using MySQL Node.js and MySQL for a long while. I don't really know what's going on. Let's try to see this. Can make a simple connection Node.js. I know my Node.js code. So execute the following query in MySQL Workbench. Outer user root localhost identified with my localhost native password by password, where root is as your server. If it doesn't work, try it without the localhost part. It worked for me. Don't forget flash privileges. MySQL 8 support pluggable authentication method. By default, one of them we're using the old MySQL native. Now the problem with the MySQL Node.js uses or doesn't support this new default authentication in MySQL 8. Okay, so some update. It's not something is not supported. Downgrade MySQL. Okay, this is not an option. Too complex. Replace Node package with MySQL connector dev API. Kind of still complex, but let's try to use this solution. Okay, I think this one works. So let's try to use this selection. So we're going to use sudo MySQL -u root -p password. This is my system password. Is it correct? Then this is my SQL password. I think it's root _ password. Okay, it works. Then we're going to change this thing. Outer user. Remember, this is I think it's the username is Yifan at %. We didn't create the local host. We only created %. Then identified by MySQL native password by Yifan password. Okay, let's try it. There's a syntax, probably a misspelling. Outer user event % identified by MySQL native password. By okay, identified with. Let me copy it. Identified with my. Okay, then it seems it's working. So let's try to stop it. Let's try to just try to see if it works. Node.js connect. Okay, it seems working. Then we solve this problem. You just search on Google, then pretty much all these problems that you can solve. Or pretty much there are a lot of people working on Node.js and MySQL, so you should be able to solve this type of problem easily. So come back to here. Now we have listened to this port. We want to make a query, right? So we want to check if this user is there or not. So remember our query Let's run this query. Okay, connection dot query to create a query. Then this is a say select user select email password. Let's also add ID here. ID email password, which makes it actually equivalent to star, but try not to use star here. Okay, select ID email password from users where email equals to let's put it out. Email equals to request dot query dot email, right? Then email equals to, we can actually use the backtick $sign and this bracket. So this is email equals to email. Okay, so we have this query string. It's the query string. Then we're going to have this callback function. So this callback function is called when this query is ready to be used. So we have three fields. One is arrow, results, and fields. Okay, we're using this fat arrow. Now we're going to console a log, arrow, results, and the fields. Okay, we're going to just simply print all of them. And I really don't know what information are there, so let's just simply print them. See, okay, how the parentheses and brackets matches. So this one matches this one, and this one matches this one. So not bad. So we can stop it, try run it. Okay, then come back to this my postman. Let's try to send this information. Now send information. Okay, we have this error. You have an error in your SQL syntax. Check the manual. Blah 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 blah. What's the error? Okay, I think this is the problem. We want to include this email in a double quote. Otherwise, it will think this @ sign is something not unusual. Okay, let's run this Node.js again. Let's run this send. Send. So no such table. Okay, let's search the table. So use OPS. Use OPS. Show tables. Show tables. User, not users. From user. We need to stop this server again. Then let's run this query again. Hopefully it works. Okay, so let's put down here. Let's write here and see what's going on. So example at listening at this particular port, then this is our query information, then our arrow is null, which is good, and our result is empty, right? Result is empty, then there's a field package telling about there are some fields. So for example, we have this ID, we have this email, we have this password, we have this field. So these fields tell us what fields we have. And see here, we haven't sent anything back, right? Previously, we're like we have this response send hello world, then it will actually terminate the whole request. So in this case, our server actually our client sent the request to the server, but our server is not sending anything back. So our client keeps waiting for the request. So let's cancel it. Let's cancel it, and let's come back here. Then say what we. So let's say if the result, if length, sorry, results the length equals to 0. This is the way to get the length of an array for JavaScript. JavaScript array length. Okay, array, the prototype length So closing the length equals 4. Yeah, this is the way. So this is similar to the len function for Python, right? So similar thing, but just in another syntax. So result length equals 0. That means the user is not found. So let's say we're going to send request response dot response send. Data is a string. So we're going to have probably, let's create some information. Found, which is false, right? So this is a JavaScript object, which is pretty much the JSON format without the code, right? So we're going to send this one. Let's see. I think it may throw an error because it actually requires a string, but we're not really sending a string. But let's do this experiment. So we'll rerun the server using Postman, send this request, and see. Okay, actually, there's no problem. Then this send function is smart enough to automatically convert to JSON. And you can actually, when it returns, even the Postman recognize, okay, this is a JSON format. Now I will actually convert it to JSON. So JSON matches to a JavaScript object. So this is JavaScript object. It matches really well. So there's no problem. So it just worked fine, right? We found the user, and we're not really say, okay, we do not have we cannot find the user. Now, if we cannot find user, then the front end should say, okay, wrong email or wrong password. Like it should promote user with this type of information, right? Otherwise, if the result is not 0, let's run something like let's try to create something. So we're going to insert user. Okay. In today's morning, I showed you how to do that, and I forgot about it right now. SQL insert into user. So the values is email, password. Okay. Insert into user, email, password, then values equals to, say, sdf@aol.com. Use a double quote, just prevent any problem. Here, double quote, just prevent any problem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So we created one user. So select star from user. See, okay, we have this one. So see, this ID becomes 2 because in the morning we created this user and our ID was 1, right? So come back here. Then if the result length is not 0, then if it's 0, then we should send the result back. Actually, rest.send, it's not the same as return, so we still need else. So else, in the other case, we need to check, say, we need to check if the password matches or not. So let's make password a field, a variable. Password equals request dot query dot password. Okay, password. Then say here if I can use else if. So Python uses elif, which is quite unique. Other program languages tend to use else if. So else if results 0 dot. See, I'm not even sure what result 0 is. It's just the object of that row. Let's see dot password. Else if the password does not match, we should still send the same thing back to the client, right? No, it's still we cannot find this user, either the password or the username is wrong. Then otherwise, we're sending this user, the whole user, back to the front end. We should not send the whole user, but let's do it for experiment for now. Found equals to true, and user equals to results 0. Right? Result is a list. So although at this moment we only expect there's only one user in this list, but you have to get the first element in this list using result 0. Let's try it. So this time we have this email and password. We should be able to get it. So we should be able to get this result. Let's see what information we can get. Okay, actually it works perfectly fine, right? So we give the email and we give the password, then the user is found, then we found the information and it returns the user information. Okay. So that basically is an API. We have implemented this API, and this API actually generally considered as 3 parts. The first part is to parse the request, to understand the request. The second part is to perform the action, and the action here is the query itself. And third part is to prepare the response and send the response. So in 3 cases, we have different type of response to send. So this is one response, this is one response, this is another response, right? So the third part is about to prepare the response and send the response back to the client. So we have this simple API implemented. It's actually very similar if you want to implement a post style a post API. You just simply change here app.get.post, and actually one particular location can accept the different type of APIs. So that's fine. You have a get and you also have a post, and you also have put. You also have delete, and even if you want to support other type of HTTP methods, that's fine. So, but one problem with get is this. You have a password here, then you are sending your password publicly on the internet, which is very dangerous. What you should do is to use the post method. And you should use the post method. And in the post method, you can have the password, that's fine. But you should use HTTPS to encrypt your password, to encrypt all the communication from the client to the server. Then your password is safe. And also, one thing, don't forget that we're not showing how to we're not showing a register API. But in the register API, what we're going to actually do is that you're going to change this password using some encryption method. So you are using probably using the SHA 256 or 512 method to encrypt this password. And you're not really saving this password, you're only saving the encrypted version. So even if someone hacks your database, they cannot see the user password. And you encrypt password, you don't even need to be able to decrypt it, because next time when user send a request here, then when you match the password, do not really do the string comparison. You first encrypt the user request first, then compare the encrypted version. If the original version matches, then the encrypted version matches, right? So this is how to protect your password from leaking in the public on the internet. So but we're not going to show it. We're just directly showing get here. Okay, just to make it simple. So we have a server running. Let's using this terminal to start another terminal. cd dev src github Yifan ops server. Let's run NodeJS index.js. You can run Node.js or Node index.js. They're actually pointing to the same thing. Okay, so the last part is about how to connect your front end to the backend. Okay, and actually, JavaScript provide us a very useful tool to connect the backend and the front end. Okay, so we have this server running. Let's go to this server, let's go to this page. And what we're going to do is to change this submit action, and do not really let it to change the authorization of HTML and this particular location. And we just want to have it to send a request to the server and to get the information, see if it's logged in successfully or not, or failed, okay? So what we need to search here is to say, JavaScript disable submit button default. Disable default submit button. Okay, how to prevent the button from submitting forms? Let's see. Button type. If you're using HTML button type, remember the reason the button is default behavior of submit. So you need to specify this explicitly. How to specify it explicitly in order to override the default submit type. I just want to point out the reason why this happens. Okay, it doesn't give us a option. So yeah. Okay, I think this is a good solution. I'm trying to find different solutions, but this looks like a default good solution. So come back here. We have this. Let's give it an ID so that we can select it. ID equals to say login submit button. Okay, login submit button. So similarly, we want to add an event to this login submit button. So we first want to select it. Const submit button equals document dot. Let's use get element by ID this time. Remember, don't add this pound sign. Otherwise, it will consider this pound sign as part of the ID. So here it's called submit button, right? Submit button, login submit button. Login submit button. Then we get this element. Then submit button dot add event listener. And what event is click. I'm not 100% sure it is. So basically, this is a jQuery implementation. Like jQuery has this famous style of using a dollar sign, and with the selector, then click and then register an event, right? But here we just want to say we don't want to use jQuery. Now it's not the trend. But here we still have this event. Let's just name the full name as event. Then let's print console log event, print it out, but let's also do this e.prevent event, event.prevent default, so that we're not triggering this default operation. Event stop propagation. So this event, so what does propagation means is not this how NodeJS, how JavaScript considers this event. So here we have this DOM element, right? We have this form, we have this table, we have this submit, right? So this submit is actually in this form is in the button. So we click on the submit. So where the top layer is submit. Then the second layer is the table, not the table, the form. Then the third layer is the body. So if we click on the submit, we first trigger the click event of the submit button. Then after that, we trigger the click event of the form. Then we trigger the click event of the body. We don't want to trigger other events, so we say stop propagation. And there's something also called stop immediate propagation. Not sure this is something, and even someone complains this is not supported by Chrome. So let's add it and see what's going on. Okay, event stop immediate propagation. Let's run this one, and then let's click on submit. Seems no error, so probably a recent added feature supported by Chrome. I don't really know what it does. So it describes as invoking this method prevents event from reaching any registered event listener after current one finished running, and when dispatched in a tree also prevents the event from reaching other objects. Okay, it's quite advanced usage, so you don't really have to know a lot about this, but the good thing is when you click submit, it's not redirecting to another place, right? So we're going to prepare this information, prepare this the content, and we're going to send it to the backend. So how we can send? So let's prepare the URL. So URL is this API slash login slash API slash login. Then we also have these parameters, right? Let's use this backtick. Let's use this backtick. Then question mark email equals to, here is the we want to get, let's first get email input. We easily get email input. Do we have an ID on it? Yes, there's an ID, email input, and there's no ID on the password. So let's add this ID password input. Okay, so we have a email input and password input. Actually, we don't need this BR anymore. So we have two elements. Email input, we better don't forget to add a const here, declare this variable. We have this email input as document get element by ID. The ID is email input. And also we're going to have password input. And the ID is password input. So here we're going to fill in email input dot value. And also we're going to have this ampersand sign and password equals to ampersand and password input dot value. Okay, so we have this actual long line here. So URL, not user, and don't forget to declare it. So next, we're going to send this request to the server, and no matter what request we're going to use this fetch, and this fetch we're going to write, say, URL. Okay, so we're going to fetch this URL, and the way this is something in JavaScript called promise. So in promise, you basically have these two different things. When you fetch something, then you you wait for a while until it's completed, right? Then you can use this then to handle what's going on, what's going on when it's completed, then when it returns. Okay, so let's say response. It get a response, and in here we simply need to return. Let's find an example. Okay, JavaScript fetch JSON. We need, so the second thing is this is a common pattern. So when we fetch something, we first get the JSON element of it, and also here you see this syntax is slightly different from what we have seen before. So there's no parentheses here, and there's no bracket here. There's no return. So this is a shorthand for this. Okay, response and bracket, and in this bracket we simply return response dot, sorry, not response, but rsp.json. So we basically convert to JSON. So this is shorthand for this thing. So we convert it to a JSON object. Okay, So, but we want it to be short, to be compact. We don't want to write that a lot of code. So we can simply write this one, response JSON. So the interesting thing about promise is that this fetch URL and it returns a response, right? This response becomes the response becomes the input of this function. Then it returns something. And you can do then this becomes the input argument of this thing. So this response has a different format from this response. And this response is the response that we actually the JSON object that we actually fetched from the server. So console, let's print it, console, a log response. Okay, let's see what's going on. Hopefully it can work at my first attempt. Use this network to monitor what is going on, what is the communication between the client and server. So we submit something, okay? What we submitted? It seems there's a problem. The problem is that this email and password is not it's not a problem because this email and the password is empty, right? So we have this communication. Now we can see this communication information here. So the URL is localhost 800 API login email something password something, and status code is 200. So we're not going to use the status code to tell if we find this user or not. We're going to use the content. Let's come to response, and we get this response found equals to false, right? And in the console here, we also get this found equals to false. Let's try something real. SDF@aol.com. The password is 123456. Why is not showing as stars? Never mind. This is something basic to HTML. It should be easily fixed. But let's do a submit. And we get this information about found, and we get this user information. So that shows it's actually worked, right? So let's make it something more interesting, okay? So this response, we know this response will get a found and we'll get a found, we'll return, we'll have a field called found. It's either true or null, or true or false. So we can add another field. Let's add another div, let's say, in this div, we can directly write text, say user found, you are going to be redirected soon. Then we have another div called user not found. Check your email and password. Okay, so we have two divs. Its name as user found the log. Okay, and this is called id dot user not found dialog. I'm not I do not want to add any style on it. But we can control the style here. Then we can have a style called display. Remember, we have this display as block and inline block, but there's also another commonly used one. I think it's called none. That means it's not shown. Let's refresh it, see. Okay, it only shows user found, and we're not really showing this user not found, right? Let's also hide it. Style display equals none, right? You can definitely use class to control it. Okay, I'm just want to make it simple. So it's not there. Then let's do this. So response, we get this response, right? And we're going to have this a full function so that we're going to take some action. And this function, what we're going to do is say if response rsp.found equals to a found, then we do this action. So one thing about JavaScript, remember this found is an object, right? This found is a console log RSP. Let's click submit. You can see this found is false, right? So this object RSP equals to found false, right? It equals to this. So if we want to add this found field, we have two ways to access it. We can use rsp.found, okay, like a class or a Python object, or another way like rsp square bracket found with a string found, okay, like a Python dictionary. Right? It actually combines dictionary and a class in JavaScript. So it's really flexible. You can use both ways to access the same field, which means exactly the same thing. We're going to use this dot. If found, then we're going to say document the get element by ID. So what's the ID is user found dialog, right? User found dialog. Document get element by ID, user found dialog. Dot style dot display, I think display equals to block. So it will show up again. Right? Or we can break it down to 2 lines, or we can break it down. We can break it down here with the dot. Yep. Okay, my auto formatter automatically changed it back for me. I'm going to break down this 80 character line limitation because it's more common to have 120 line limitation. Okay, so otherwise, if it's not found, then let's do document get element by ID, user not found the log, the style, the display equals to block. Okay, so according to if the user is found or not found, we show different dialogues. Now you can actually make this dialogue looks nicer if you are using JavaScript, if you're using CSS. So let's try if I'm making it up. Now I submit. What happens? Found false. If you rsp.found, why this one is not showing? User not found style display is not showing. So okay, so this is the first time we encounter error, and it's related to code. So we need to come here. Let's we can set a break point and see what's going on. Okay, let's try to name it. Let's try to slightly change the way how we code so that it's more debuggable. So we're going to have a let dialog. Let's say equals to now at the beginning. We're not going to specify it. Then if we found it, if the response dot found, if we found it, dialog equals to user found dialog. Otherwise, dialog equals to this one. And finally, we're going to set dialog dot style dot display equals to block. Okay, so we just want to check if we have actually be able to select the dialog or not. So I'm going to remove it and do this add the empty line. So let's refresh it. Write something down here. Then we'll come back here to sources and find the login.js is the source that we are working on. I can click on this line number so that I'm setting a breakpoint. Then I click on submit. You see, it will automatically pause here and see what's going on. Okay, it will pause here. If my mouse hovers on dialog, you can see, okay, this dialog is not, it's null. So we're not really selecting this element. It's probably a misspelling. User found the dialog, or let's copy paste this one. Document get element by ID. Copy. Yes, it can't find it. Why it cannot find here? Now what about this one? Oh, here we have a misspelling. We have a misspelling. Wait, copy, paste. We can also find it. Isn't this the problem? So let's execute it again. Let's refresh it. Then submit it again. You see here, dialog. Okay, it's not now anymore. We can click on the line number and we can click on this play button so that it will continue to play. So user not found, check your email and password. Refresh it. We have a user sdf at aol.com. Password is 123456. Let's submit it. Say user found, you're going to be redirected soon. Okay, so far we are pretty much completed with this login design. So it's very simple, it's very primitive, and it's actually not very secure. There's still a lot of work to do, but I hope this serves as a good introductory course for you to understand how web development works. And you need to work on both the front end code, the back end code, and so also need to deal with the database. Then see, we have four players. The user, right? The user typing something. We have the JavaScript, the front end JavaScript. We have the back end JavaScript. We have the database. Four players. Where the information, how the information flows, right? User types in some information in this input text box. Then click on the button. Then this information goes to the front end. The front end extract this information, prepares a URL, prepares the request, and send this request to the backend, to a particular API. Then the backend uses this API to probably send the request to the database to fetch information. Then it checks this information and prepares the response and send back to the front end. Then the front end get this response and show corresponding information to the web page so that the user can see it. Okay, so these four players, you always need to think how these four players interact with each other, and to be smart using these HTTP requests, different get, put, post, and delete methods. Then using these building blocks, you can pretty much start to build very, very complex networks. Okay, hopefully this can get you started with web development. Okay, and this will be the last video in the whole series.